Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today, I'm sure you've seen the title. We're going to learn about how all the people at your job are actually undercover CIA agents sabotaging sabotaging the company. Okay, that's probably not true, but we're going to just look because I just looked over it so briefly, and I immediately thought, how many people are going to see overlap between this list and their work or school environment, and particularly the bureaucracies that exist within those environments and some particular individuals within those bureaucracies? And here we go. So this is from actually the OSS, not the CIA, but the CIA. The OSS became the CIA. And this is from 1944. It's called the Simple Sabotage Field Manual. Okay, here we go. And these are just suggestions for general interference with organizations and production. Number one, insist on doing everything through channels. Never permit shortcuts to be taken in order to expedite decisions. Does that sound familiar? We have to decide on this UI UX layout. Well, the decision has to be made by Friday, and it's Monday today. So we should probably have 5 or 6 meetings about it today. We should probably have meetings about these meetings tomorrow. And then Wednesday, let's have meetings about meetings that we should have had on Monday. Never permit shortcuts to be taken to expedite decisions. So you're never allowed to just flip the button, right? This button over here, it's off. It needs to be turned on. You're never allowed to just turn it on. You have to go through channels. 2, make speeches. Talk as frequently as possible and at great length. Illustrate your points by making long anecdotes and accounts of personal experiences. Never hesitate to make a few appropriate patriotic comments. And patriotic is in quotes here. I'm assuming that explicitly sort of references the organization that you're a part of, like patriotic for the company. So talk as frequently as possible at great length. Illustrate your points by long anecdotes and accounts of personal experiences. So just blather on and on and on and on and on. And especially if you know everyone else is under a time crunch and you know everyone else has real work to do, and you know that there's no way that this meeting is going to be more than an hour long because everyone else has things to do. So if I just blather for an hour, then we just moved right past another day and nothing got done. Number 3, when possible, refer all matters to committees for further study and consideration. Attempt to make the committees as large as possible, never less than 5 people. So all matters must go through as large of a network of people as possible to make the chances of dissent and confusion as high as possible. You could just make the decision yourself, or you could wind this decision through 25 people, inevitably finding maybe half a dozen people who disagree with it in some way. And of course, none of that matters to you. You're just trying to fuck this up. You're a saboteur. So I'm really wondering how many of you are thinking of people at work right now. or at school. I guarantee you, there's a great chart I saw. Maybe I'll find it in the editing, but it was looking at American education system and the rise in how many teachers are employed actually teaching versus how many administrators are employed in the school networks. And of course, administrators are going up non-linearly, meaning every year that goes by, a larger percentage of the people employed in the public school system are not actually teachers. It's just this ever-growing amoeba fucking bureaucratic mess. Committees. The idea of a committee is distasteful, to say the least. Jesus. Refer all matters to committees, everything, no matter how small. We need at least 20 or 30 opinions on this. All right, number 4, bring up irrelevant issues as frequently as possible. Does it not feel like this? Does it not feel like people are using this handbook? Bring up irrelevant issues as frequently as possible. Number 5, haggle over precise wording of communications, minutes, and resolutions. The exact wording needs to be exact. You wouldn't want effective communication. Obviously, when two people talk, there is an unspoken agreement that I'm not always going to communicate perfectly. What I mean to say versus the words that come out of my mouth, there's going to be some discrepancy. And when you're talking to a regular person, a real human being, not an NPC, they make allowances for that. They are willing to meet you halfway. That's one of the things that's so frustrating about politics is that like nobody's willing to meet anybody halfway. Everybody is just being a dickhead about it, which, is enjoyable sometimes. But if you're not willing to meet somebody halfway, you hear something and oh, okay, what they're trying to say is this. But you're going to slow down the whole, everything must stop because you didn't use the words that I deemed were the appropriate way to communicate that. God damn it. Number 6, refer back to matters decided upon at the last meeting and attempt to reopen the question of the advisability of that decision. Can you imagine? So everything has to go through channels. When you're in the channel, it's at least a committee of 5 or more people. Then once in the committee, all of the bureaucratic people are making speeches as lengthy and blathersome as possible, bringing up irrelevant issues, haggling over precise wording, and then reopening matters that you finally closed weeks ago. 7, advocate caution, be reasonable, and urge your fellow conferees, I don't know what the fuck that word is, to be reasonable and avoid haste, which might result in embarrassments or difficulties later on. That's great. That sort of sentiment that we should do nothing because of some, mysterious fear of something bad happening. Let's do nothing. Let's be reasonable. When reasonable means do nothing, that's a big red flag. We don't want to go too fast here, so we shouldn't move at all. Speed is the enemy. Let's start moving backwards. Number 8, be worried about the property of any decision. Propriety. Illiterate. Be worried about the propriety of any decision. Raise the question of whether such action is contemplated lies within the jurisdiction of the group or whether it might conflict with the policy of some higher echelon. Appeal to authority. After all of this, after the committees, after the channels, the irrelevant issues, bringing up past things, then you question the authority. Well, actually, are we even the people to make this decision? Come to think of it, I don't think so. I think we're going to have to defer to somebody else, some other group of committees and channels. Next, even if you understand the language, pretend not to understand instructions in a foreign tongue. You get hired to be bilingual, and then when you're supposed to use those additional languages, pretend that you don't understand. Classic. Actually, that's used all the time. I grew up hearing no hablas inglés a million times, and then when I lived in China, anytime I didn't want to talk to somebody, I would just be like, "Ting budong, I don't understand. Wo bujadao, I don't know." Even if I understood what they wanted to communicate, if I didn't feel like talking, I'd just be like, "Ting budao, I don't speak Chinese." Wo bujadao, wo bujadao. All right, next, pretend that instructions are hard to understand and ask to have them repeated more than once, or pretend that you're particularly anxious to do your work and pester the foreman with unnecessary questions. Pestering your boss. is dangerous. I don't recommend that. Pretend that instructions are hard to understand. This is especially effective, I would imagine, if you actually already know what you're doing and you're just pretending to be ignorant. Like, you know the technology or the job inside and out, and you're just pretending not to. Or, especially in the food service industry, there's a tremendous amount of weaponized incompetence, where any job that requires even the slightest amount of skill but is a laborious job, the average, especially like young people, some high school kid who just needs a job for a couple of months, they're just going to intentionally fail so that you never give them anything challenging. At least that's been the super majority of my experience when I was managing. Next, do your work poorly and blame it on bad tools, bad machinery, or bad equipment. Complain that these things are preventing you from doing your job. Classic. Next, never pass on your skill and experience to new or less skillful workers. I forget what army. I watched a documentary about that exact issue. I forget what army it was about. It was a whole documentary about how some military, it might have been like Pakistan or somewhere, but apparently it was really difficult to get promoted. And because it was so difficult to get promoted and there was a large degree of arbitrary decision making, once somebody had the skills to get promoted, they were incentivized not to teach anybody their skills, because then it would increase the chances that they got replaced. So you had like artillery battalions where the guy running the group is the only one who actually knows how to operate the artillery. And as you start stepping down the ladder, it's like exponentially more unknowledgeable and ignorant. And then when you get to the guys who are actually standing in front of the equipment, they have absolutely no idea how to do anything. Next, snarl up administration in every possible way. Fill out forms illegally. Fill them out illegally. So that they have to be done over, make mistakes, or omit requested information in forms. Oh, I am just describing the government. Am I not? Am I not describing the government? This sounds like Deloitte, but it feels like I'm describing the supermajority of large-scale systems that we are subjected to on a daily basis. Next, if possible, join or help organize a group for presenting employee problems to the management. See that the procedures adopted are as inconvenient as possible for management, involving the presence of a large number of employees at each presentation. Again, once you gather a bunch of people, it becomes a clusterfuck. Entailing more than one meeting for each grievance, bringing up problems that are largely imaginary, and so on. I love that. That's great. Oh, we're putting together a group to solve problems more effectively? I can't wait to fuck that up. You know what this problem-solving group needs? It needs another 35 opinions. Let's bring on everybody. Next, two more. To lower morale and with it production, be pleasant to inefficient workers. Give them undeserved promotions. Discriminate against efficient workers. Complain unjustly about their work. I know that a lot of you out there are watching inefficient people get promoted. I know that. Finally, hold conferences when there is more critical work to be done. Again, just avoid important stuff. So this has been the OSS, which later became the CIA's Simple Sabotage Field Manual from 1944, describing how to sabotage organizations. If I didn't just describe corporate America and the American government, then I don't know what the fuck I was talking about. This is incredible. I can't wait to see the comments under this video. Give me your best examples. I will make a whole nother video reading people's examples, because I cannot wait to hear these practices and what it looks like in the real world, in practice. I suppose I could probably come up with quite a few Deloitte examples, but it's, does it matter that it's intentional? Obviously, this is for an intelligence organization intentionally destabilizing an organization, but does it matter if it's intentional? If your company is filled with people who are inadvertently sabotaging, it's still sabotage, right? Does it have to be premeditated? I don't think so. I think it's still sabotage. Now, how many of you out there are dealing with just saboteurs all around you just as a consequence of midwits and incompetence and bureaucracy? I fucking hate bureaucracy. Anyway, that's been another video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Seeking Squalor, toilet umbrellas and champagne chandeliers. Buy it on Amazon. You won't regret it. Put it next to your toilet and stop doom scrolling. Yeah, I'm talking to you. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.